Picture this: a busy street, people rushing through their lives while a woman, her eyes weary and her face etched with struggle, holds up a sign asking for help. Teresa, a homeless veteran, had been forgotten by everyone until something improbable happened. Among the anonymous faces, a figure emerged that no one expected: Donald Trump. Yes, him, the businessman and former president. But what he did next left even the biggest skeptics speechless. This is the kind of story that challenges every prejudice. A woman invisible to society, a man known for his polarizing views, brought together by a gesture that would change everything. Do you believe that a single encounter can transform a life? Get ready, because this story will surprise you, inspire you, and perhaps even change the way you see the world. And the best is yet to come. It was an ordinary day, but for Teresa, every day was a battle. Dressed in worn-out clothes and holding a small cardboard sign with trembling letters, she searched for hope amidst the bustling city streets. Her tired eyes told a story of struggle and sacrifice as the flow of people passed her by, indifferent. Then, a well-known figure appeared on the horizon, carrying an aura that transformed any scene around him: Donald Trump. What had caught his attention? No one knew, but the way he slowed down, his gaze fixed on the woman, seemed to foreshadow that something extraordinary was about to happen. Trump observed Teresa for a few moments, as if trying to decipher the secrets hidden in her features marked by time and adversity. His confident stride, which usually exuded authority, gave way to a more subdued, almost respectful posture. He approached her, slightly bending down to meet her at eye level. The crowd around them began to notice. Whispers spread, but the moment seemed to belong only to the two of them. Teresa, surprised and hesitant, raised her eyes. The man before her, someone she never imagined encountering, was now her sole audience. Trump's first words were simple but filled with warmth and a personal touch. "What happened to you, Teresa?" That question was enough to break the barrier of mistrust. Slowly, she began to share her story. A veteran, forgotten by the system that once promised to protect her, struggling to survive on the streets. Each word painted a painful portrait of injustice and abandonment, and Trump listened intently, without interrupting or looking away. For those accustomed to seeing him in the spotlight, this was an unexpected side of him. As Teresa spoke, Trump was already mentally strategizing his next steps. He had a rare quality: the ability to turn impulses into actions. His eyes gleamed as if he already envisioned a different outcome for this story. The genuine empathy of the moment contrasted with any stereotypical view the public might have of him. It was impossible not to feel that something greater was unfolding. But what would he do next? The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The encounter between the two, seemingly so unlikely, left an unanswered question lingering in the air. How would a man with so much power respond to a situation so raw and vulnerable? Teresa, sitting there with her life reduced to a few words on a piece of cardboard, now faced a possibility she didn't even know existed. Trump offered a slight smile, a subtle gesture but loaded with promise. Something was about to change, and that scene was only the beginning of an incredible story. As soon as the encounter ended, Trump wasted no time. His pragmatic instinct guided him, and he knew the first step was to act quickly. He pulled out his phone and, with the decisiveness of someone accustomed to making decisions under pressure, called his personal assistant. The conversation, brief and to the point, made it clear that something important was happening. "I need you to organize immediate help. Find her a place to stay and arrange medical care. I don't care about the costs. Just do it." His tone wasn't a request. It was a command. The response on the other end was a firm "yes, sir." While the call continued, Trump glanced discreetly at Teresa, who looked cautious and vulnerable. She couldn't hear the words exchanged, but there was something reassuring in the way he spoke, with determination and empathy. For a man used to handling multi-million-dollar transactions and complex negotiations, this moment had a unique quality. He was negotiating with someone's destiny, not with numbers. Every detail mattered, and he ensured that nothing would be overlooked. Trump's team, trained to handle complex situations, quickly sprang into action. Phones rang, emails were sent, and within minutes, the first steps were being taken. Outside, those observing the scene wondered what was going on. It wasn't common to see such a mobilization in broad daylight, especially to help a homeless person. But for Trump, it was simple. She needed help, and he had the resources to offer it. After ending the call, he turned to Teresa with a look of confidence and compassion. "Things are going to get better from now on," he said, his voice firm but reassuring. The disbelief in her eyes was evident. After all, How could she believe that a man so far removed from her reality could change anything in her life? Even so, a thread of hope began to form. What had he planned? And how could those seemingly simple words turn into real actions? While Trump's team worked behind the scenes, he decided there was no time to wait for everything to be resolved. Teresa was clearly exhausted, her fragility evident in every hesitant move she made. Trump then took a simple but meaningful step. He invited her to sit down at a nearby cafe. "Come on, Teresa, you need to eat something," he said with a naturalness that removed any sense of embarrassment. She hesitated for a moment but eventually agreed, driven by a mix of necessity and curiosity. At the cafe, curious glances followed the unlikely pair. Teresa, in her worn-out clothes and weary demeanor, and Trump, whose imposing presence made even the most distracted take notice. He ordered a warm meal for her, something simple but nourishing, and ensured she felt at ease. "Order whatever you'd like," he said as she timidly glanced at the menu. The first bite seemed like a personal victory, and the faint smile of gratitude on her face was the first spark of a connection forming between them. As Teresa ate, Trump listened to her story with undivided attention, encouraging her to share more details. Every word carried the weight of years of neglect and hardship. She spoke about her time serving the country, the struggles of adjusting after leaving the military, and the neglect she faced when seeking help. Each sentence was filled with pain, yet there was something else, a resilience that endured despite the worst adversities. Trump, in silence, absorbed it all, as if every detail were a piece of a puzzle he needed to solve. The atmosphere in the cafe shifted, the surrounding chatter seemed to fade, and the moment became almost intimate. Teresa, feeling more comfortable, let out small nervous laughs as Trump, with his knack for easing tense moments, made witty remarks. Still, the question lingered. What would happen next? The meal offered temporary comfort, but Trump's attentive gaze suggested he had much bigger plans to transform her story. The outcome, however, remained a mystery. After the meal, Trump knew it was time to take a bigger step. He needed to ensure Teresa had a safe and dignified place to stay, and that didn't mean just any place. With the same determination he had shown from the start, he made another call, this time to a renowned hotel in the city. On the other end of the line, the hotel staff seemed incredulous at the request. "Book the best suite you have, I'll be sending a special guest," he said, in a tone that left no room for doubt. It was a gesture that went beyond expectations, but for Trump, it was simply how things should be done. Shortly after, Teresa was escorted to the hotel by a team designated specifically for her. The grand entrance, with its magnificent architecture and dazzling chandeliers, felt like a surreal contrast to her reality. Teresa looked around with a mix of awe and disbelief. "Is all this for me?" she asked, her voice trembling. The concierge, fully briefed by Trump, replied with a warm smile, "Yes, ma'am. Here, you are our guest of honor." It wasn't just a shelter. It was an experience that reintroduced her to the dignity she had lost over the years. Upon entering the suite, Teresa could hardly believe what she saw. A soft bed, neatly folded towels, a breathtaking view of the city. It was also different from the harshness of the streets. The comfort was almost overwhelming, but also brought a sense of relief she hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, Trump stayed in touch, ensuring everything was perfect. He wanted her to understand that this was only the beginning of a journey that could change her life. Most importantly, he wanted her to know she wasn't alone. In that first moment of silence, as she lay down on the luxurious bed, Teresa felt something different, hope. But even with all the relief that situation provided, questions remained. What was Trump's plan? How far was he willing to go to help her? The answers were yet to come, but one thing was certain. That act of generosity had planted the seed of something transformative. Deep down, she knew her life would never be the same. The next day, while Teresa was still adjusting to the unexpected comfort, Trump was already taking the next steps. He knew that providing shelter was just the beginning. For Teresa to truly rebuild her life, a solid and lasting plan was necessary. With his strategic mindset, he decided to involve the Veterans United Support Services, an organization specializing in helping veterans reintegrate into society. With just one call, he ensured the organization's team was ready to assist Teresa, providing personalized support tailored to her needs. When the representatives from Veterans United arrived at the hotel, Teresa was greeted with a level of respect she hadn't experienced in years. They spoke with her in detail, seeking to understand her journey and the obstacles that had brought her to this point. Their approach wasn't just about solving immediate problems, but about building a sustainable path forward. Teresa, initially reluctant, began to realize that these people were genuinely committed to helping her. Trump's presence, even though not physical at that moment, seemed to linger as a reminder that she had someone powerful in her corner. The organization developed a plan to help her rebuild her life, from access to therapy and emotional support to reintegration programs into the workforce. For Teresa, this felt like a distant dream, but the dedication of everyone involved offered a new perspective. Every step seemed carefully aligned, as if everyone was conspiring for her success. The contrast with the indifference she had faced before was so striking that it brought tears to her eyes. For the first time in years, she began to believe that she could rise above her circumstances. While there was still a long road ahead, Teresa now had something invaluable: a committed support network and tangible resources for her recovery. When Trump was informed of the progress, he smiled with satisfaction. For him, it wasn't just about a charitable gesture, but about creating a lasting impact. However, he knew there was more to be done. The next phase would be crucial to ensuring that Teresa not only had a fresh start, but also the strength to move forward with independence and dignity. While Teresa's reintegration plan was beginning to take shape, Trump realized there was a practical barrier that needed immediate resolution: money. Without a solid financial foundation, any effort to rebuild her life could fall apart. With this in mind, he activated his personal foundation, ensuring all initial expenses were covered. Renting a modest apartment was the first step, but he didn't stop there. He also made sure Teresa had a monthly stipend to cover basic needs while she got back on her feet. When Teresa received the news, she was speechless. She had never imagined someone could care enough to guarantee her financial stability. The gesture wasn't just generous, it was a vote of confidence in her ability to rise again. Trump, in his characteristic way, explained to her that this support was an investment in her future. "Everyone deserves a second chance," he said, in a tone that blended firmness with encouragement. "Now it's your turn to show the world what you can do." The foundation also ensured that Teresa had access to a financial advisor to help her organize her finances and learn how to manage her resources effectively. This detail made all the difference for her, as she had never had the opportunity to understand how to plan a life free from the constant shadow of insecurity. Every step was designed to provide her with practical tools and the confidence needed to maintain her independence in the long term. Although Teresa now had a roof over her head and the resources to start over, she knew the biggest challenge was yet to come: finding her place in the world again. The financial assistance was one of the most crucial pieces of this puzzle, but it also came with an implicit call to action. Trump had invested in her potential, and she felt she needed to give back in some way. However, the how remained an unanswered question, a question she was eager to explore. As the days passed, Teresa began to feel safer, more capable of envisioning a future that once seemed impossible. During an unexpected visit from Trump, a special moment unfolded. He called her for an honest conversation, sitting beside her like an old friend. "Teresa, you've been through so much, but now it's time to think about how to transform your life. And more than that, how you can help others who are where you once were." His words weren't just encouragement, they were a challenge, an invitation to rewrite her story. The conversation deeply moved Teresa. For the first time, she began to think not only about what she could receive, but also about what she could give. Trump, with his ability to inspire action, shared stories of other people who had overcome adversity and found ways to give back. "You can be an example, Teresa, a symbol that no one has ever truly lost, but that's up to you." The weight of those words was immense, but they also carried something rare: hope. Teresa started attending support groups for other veterans, sharing her story and listening to theirs. With each meeting, her confidence grew, as did her desire to make a difference. She discovered a new strength within herself, a strength she had never imagined possessing. More than external help, what Trump had given her was the opportunity to see herself in a new light, not as a victim, but as someone capable of inspiring transformation. As Teresa moved toward the next chapter of her life, it became clear that the seed planted by Trump had borne fruit. But he, always the strategist, knew the true victory lay in how she would use what she had received to impact the world around her. There was still much to be done, but one thing was certain: Teresa now carried not only the weight of her story but also the glow of infinite possibilities. The cycle of hope and empowerment had begun. The story of Teresa and Trump is proof that even in the most unlikely circumstances, A simple act of empathy can spark extraordinary transformation. Teresa not only received a second chance but also found the strength to give back, showing that even the darkest moments can be overcome with support and determination. And what about us? Are we ready to make a difference in the life of someone in need? What would you do if you had the power to change a life? Reflect on that. Small actions can have enormous impacts, and stories like this remind us of the importance of looking beyond appearances. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe in the power of individual impact? Have you witnessed or experienced a story like this? Let's talk about it. If you want to keep following real and inspiring stories like this, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and don't miss a single video. Your next inspiration might be just a click away. See you next time.